Hi.
Hello, everyone!
We're back.
Yeah,
I don't even remember where we stopped.
I don't either.
Oh, goodies. One of those nights.
Yep.
Let's see. Chapter 1. Oh. Oh, goody.
Like, I know that we didn't get to,
Far.
Huh?
We didn't get that far. I think. Let's...
I know that we did not get to, Ikadaya Inn.
Okay.
That much I remember.
Yeah. Because this...
And I remember, them like, oh yeah, you want to come on patrol with us and everything? No, I'm good. I'll stay here.
Ah, okay. I think then this is probably just before Ikeda?
Yeah.
Okay. In the end, I decided not to leave. They had enough on their minds without having to worry about me. Still... The yawn has appeared.
There's the first one of the night.
At least it makes sense, because I woke up from a friggin' nap.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep myself from feeling a little sad about it. I gave my head a shake.
Alright, what should I do today?
For the past 6 months, I'd done a little more than run inconsequential errands for the Shinsengumi. I'd also helped clean the compound and prepare meals, and eventually I learned how best to help without getting in the way. Most of my time...
She had another yawn.
Most of the time was spent with the captains, but on the occasions where I'd bump into the rank-and-file soldiers, I'd gotten to a point where I could speak to them easily enough. Probably because they thought I was a page. My desire to find my father had kept me from trying to run away.
At least they finally started to trust me. At least I hope they have.
Some of them still weren't terribly nice to me, like Okita-san. But by and large, they'd begun to give me a little more freedom. It sure was hot.
What should I do today?
My mind was completely blank. It was too hot to think.
Of course!
I'd go to the central courtyard. There was usually a breeze there, and if I stayed in the shade, it would probably be quite cool. Oh, this scene.
Meh.
My hopes and dreams of a comfortable afternoon were shattered.
There's no wind.
The sun's heat was unrelenting. Normally, a nice cool breeze would have given me a chance to feel comfortable, but I had a feeling it was going to be a bad day. Shade was the best I could hope for, it seemed. I sighed and sat down in the deepest shade I could find. As I watched the sun roast Kyo, something occurred to me.
Oh, right. My father's been here, hasn't he?
They told me as much, but they hadn't told me why. Had he been tending to the injured, or perhaps educating the Shinsengumi on how to avoid illness? No, that didn't sound like him. He'd visited only a few times, or so I've been told. If he'd really been the Shinsengumi's doctor, then he would have visited far more often. Which left me with the question, why? It had already been made clear to me that the Shinsengumi had plenty of secrets that I wasn't meant to know. I had a feeling that whatever my father had been up to, it had something to do with those secrets.
No, it can't be right. Can it?
I shook my head again, trying my best to dispel the dark thoughts taking shape there. Do you know or do not know?
What? Can't be right? What can't be right? I don't know. Oh. Can't be right.
I spun around to find that Sanan-san had walked up behind me, utterly undetected and unannounced.
Oh, Sana-san. Is it alright for you to be walking around?
Please, I am no bedridden invalid. There's nothing wrong with me.
When he spoke, there was a hint of coldness to his words.
Although, I suppose my left hand is something of an invalid.
I couldn't bear to look at the side-twisted smile he gave me. His arm hadn't healed, and it seemed certain now that it never would. The rest of the captains seemed sure that he would never be able to use his arm as he'd been that he would never be able to use his arm as he'd done before.
And what are you doing? Are you allowed out of your room? You haven't been given the run of our headquarters, I'm sure.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
Take a drink, everybody.
Ah, it started. 8 minutes.
Yep.
8 minutes in. We're already. Yay!
$55 degrees tomorrow. Cool.
55?
Yep, out here in central Missouri, yes.
I wonder what mine is.
I just saw it on my phone.
40, 42, 40, 39, something like that. 40s. The highest will be 48. No, 49.
Oh, so you're not that much colder than we are tomorrow. Cool.
Apparently not.
They usually let me walk around as I please, so long as I didn't go into anyone's rooms. But I knew that, technically, I was still confined to my quarters. Whatever freedom I had was out of kindness, nothing more. In other words, Sana-san was right. If he decided to chastise me for being in the courtyard, I had no reasonable response.
There were some things I wanted to think about. I hope the courtyard would be cooler than my room.
The moment the words were out of my mouth, I realized it sounded far more like childish excuses than any sort of real explanation.
When you sneak about without permission, it makes it seem as if you have something to hide.
I'm sorry.
Another drink, everybody!
Oh, Jesus. Num num num.
Mountain Dew Spark.
Mountain Dew Spark?
It's regular Mountain Dew with a blast of raspberry lemonade.
Huh.
I like it.
Alright. My explanation had been poor, certainly, but he could have at least pretended to acknowledge it. It's Sanan we're talking about, though.
Yeah, let's be fair.
Still, I was beginning to grow accustomed to the subtle cruelty that seemed to accompany each word out of Sana-san's mouth.
Alright, I'm going back to my room then.
I turned and began to walk away. Sana-san's unpleasantness had started after he'd been injured during his trip to Osaka. He spent most of his time locked in his room now, and he was quick to take out his frustration on other people. I knew the loss of his arm had hurt him, probably more than I could understand, but I wished that he could go back to being the warm, kind man he'd been when I'd met him. I turned around to see him still standing there.
It's really hot out today. You should try and stay out of the sun. And please, take care of yourself.
I gave him a nervous little laugh, and he responded with a chuckle of his own. His smile didn't look forced.
Ah, Momo, take care of yourself as well.
Somewhere in there, the Sana-san I'd first met was still there. Oh, he's there. Just takes a little bit.
Yeah.
My spirits lifted. I ran back to my room. It was later that evening that the compound exploded with activity. It has become a beehive. I was walking down the hall when I heard footsteps and turned to see Nagakura-san walking towards me.
Nagakura-san?
What's that? Oh.
What's that for?
He glanced down almost absently at his hands, which held a candle and an exceptionally long needle.
Oh. Oh, what are the Choshu guys we picked up as a talking? The commander's gonna talk to him personally, but he said if he didn't have the right tools and sent me out to get these.
I don't understand.
I got that they'd capture someone, but what were the needle and candle for?
Don't want to know.
Mm-mm.
Ha! Look, kid, ignorance is bliss, alright? Don't think about it too much.
He gave me another bark of laughter and then headed past me down the hall. I still didn't know what he'd meant. I do. As the sun began to set, the activity in the compound reached a fever pitch.
Hesuke-kun!
He shot past my door as I called out, then wheeled back around.
What happened? All the men are running around. Did you get some information out of that Choshu man you captured?
He nodded.
Yeah, it looks like they're having a meeting right now. We're getting ready for a raid.
Oh.
Hesuke-kun went on to explain that the Shinsengumi would be splitting into two groups and searching locations at opposite ends of the city. Kondo-san would take 10 men to the Ikeda Inn, and Hijikata-san would take 24 to the Shikoku Inn.
I heard that they're probably at Shikoku. Gotta say, I'm kind of pissed that the chief's sending me to Ikeda.
They'd send more men with Hijikata-san because they thought he'd probably be seeing action. Kondo-san and his men were just to make sure they covered all their bases.
So why not go 17 and 17?
Nah. That's a good... I don't know. It ended up that way somehow.
You mean there aren't even 40 men ready to move?
I know that the heat in the close quarters had made some of the men sick, but I hadn't known it was so many. I actually cannot remember the actual reason why there wasn't a lot of men. So we're gonna go with this. Hesuke sighed.
We sent word to the Aizu and the Judiciary Commissioner, but it looks like they're just gonna sit on their hands.
Haruka would have a word with him later, don't worry.
It sounds like you've got your work cut out for you.
Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could offer him apart from sympathy. I had a feeling it was going to be a difficult night. After all the men capable of fighting had left for their respective assignments, Sana-san called for me.
I'm sure it was only out of courtesy, but the chief has asked me to protect the compound. It's mostly empty, of course, but someone may try to attack us for that very reason. So I must ask that you stay where I can keep a close eye on you. I may need to give you orders should the worst occur.
Okay.
I hesitated a moment, then spoke.
Does that mean you'll protect me?
I'm not sure why, but he laughed at that.
Well, I should hope I'll be of more use than the men who've been confined to their beds, at least.
Ah, Sanan.
You goddamn snake!
Sanan. Was I supposed to be happy? His smile was so sad. I wasn't sure what I should say. It seemed to hurt him the most when the rest of the men were out fighting, and all he was able to do was wait. The silence between us stretched out until suddenly...
She had a yawn.
Yep. Until suddenly the door to our room opened without a sound.
Oh. Colonel Sanan-san, we've confirmed that the Choshu are meeting at Ikeda.
Ikeda?
Oh dear, that's less than desirable. I suppose the Shinzugumi has never been good with games of chance.
His tone
That's
was...
one of my favorite soundtrack of the game.
Oh, this one?
Yes, The Wolves of Mibu.
At least for this version, anyway. His tone was light, but his face was serious, and with good reason. They'd been certain Shikoku was the right location, and had only sent half as many men to Ikeda.
Yamazaki-san?
Kun.
Wait a minute, I gotta see.
It's Kun. Sana is always Kun, because everybody's, like, younger. Besides,
Oh
like,
yeah,
Kondo.
Yamazaki-kun, can you do me a favor?
The man who he'd call Yamazaki-kun nodded curtly.
First, go tell Hijikata that the enemy is meeting at Ikeda. He should still be on his way to Shikoku. And I'm sorry to trouble with you with it, but I need you to take this child with you as well.
This child? Wait,
Was he talking about me?
Yes.
The fuck was that?
It was from Terminal Montage.
Yamazaki-san seemed just as surprised.
Pardon me, Colonel. I don't mean to be rude, but if all you need is a message delivered, then I think I can handle that myself.
Yamazaki-san's cold eyes slid over to me for a moment as he spoke.
There may be Ronin out to intercept you.
There was a chance Choshu had support, he continued. If Yamazaki-san encountered resistance, it would take longer for his message to reach Ichikata-san. Perhaps too long. Assuming, of course, that it reached him at all. Sana-san finished with a soft smile I hadn't seen him use for weeks.
Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yamazaki-san nodded.
If the worst should come, I can hold off any Choshu Ronin and give her the message.
oh.
I gulped. It sounded as if they were suggesting that if things went badly, Yamazaki-san would sacrifice himself.
Not yet. Yes. Of course, I doubt it will come to that. We're short of men right now, which means there's more I need you to do. You'll need to notify the Aizu and Judiciary Commissioner as well.
That would have Yamazaki-san running all across Kyo. I suppose it really drove home just how thin the Shinsengumi was stretched. Apart from Yamazaki-san and Sana-san, the only other person able to carry messages was me.
You are Chizuru, Yukimura Chizuru, right? I heard you know a little about how to protect yourself.
I do.
He looked at me for a moment, emotionless.
Unfortunately, I cannot guarantee your safety. But if you can work with that, then you're welcome to join me.
If I tried to run away while we were out, I had no doubt that he would kill me without hesitation. He would see his mission as the priority, not my life. Even so,
I'll go.
if I really could help, then I wanted to. I'd lived with these men for almost half a year. They'd fed me, given me a roof over my head, and help me look for my father.
I can take care of myself. You don't need to worry about me.
Sun gave me a small smile. I knew he wanted to join the battle more than anyone, but we both knew that was impossible. The least I could do for him was carry out my mission.
Very well. Very well. I accept your request, Colonel.
He bowed and turned to me.
Run with all your might.
Jesus Christ. Why?
Because I got closer to the mic.
I know.
But I feel like it's him like getting close to your ear and saying, "Run for it with all your might." Run for all your might.
He whispered
What?
and ran from the room. Why do you do this?
Because it's in character.
I took off after him, my legs working as hard as they could. Out into the street we ran. I discovered quickly that half a year indoors had done little for my physique, and I was clearly out of shape. After only a few blocks, I found myself gasping for breath.
No matter what happens, follow this street. Don't look back.
I had neither the time nor the breath to respond. Also, I just realized in the remix, this scene is actually flipped. We're actually going left instead of right. When we'd left the compound, I'd already decided that I would trust Yamazaki-san completely. So, I didn't look back. As I stepped into the next intersection, I saw a flash of metal out of the corner of my eye.
Keep going! I'll catch up in a moment!
Right.
Whoosh! I kept running. I pretended I didn't hear the sounds of swords ringing against one another behind me, gritted my teeth, and ran. My knees felt weak and my legs shook, but I kept going. They'd have to collapse or shake themselves to pieces before I'd stop. Even so, I felt so slow. I wanted to cry out, to scream at my body to go faster, faster. Light shone out of the darkness so suddenly that for a moment I was blinded. My heart stopped. Was it Josh's soldiers? I froze.
What the hell are you doing?
I very nearly began to cry with relief. Instead, I simply collapsed as Harada-san reached out to grab me.
Whoa, you okay? If you left the headquarters without permission, then Hijikata is going to kill you. Hijikata-san's going to kill you.
I grabbed hold of Harada-san's hand and pulled my body to its feet. What I wanted to tell him was that I had permission to leave, and explained to him that it was alright for me to be there, but I was breathing so hard I could barely speak. Besides, I hadn't been sent to Hijikata-san to make excuses. I took as deep of a breath as my shuttered lungs could manage and spoke.
They're meeting at Ikeda.
Suddenly, Hijikata-san's expression changed.
Then they are at Ikeda.
I nodded rapidly.
Are you sure?
Hijikata-san gestured towards me.
Sanan lost his arm, not his brain. The kid didn't run away. Sanan-san sent us this message.
Harada-san whistled. Nope.
I tried.
I know.
I'm pretty impressed you found us. I didn't really think you knew Kyo that well, kid.
Yeah, Yamazaki-san.
I finally got some of my breath back, and I did my best to tell them what had happened.
What about the Aizu and the Judiciary's Commissioner's men? Are they on their way to Ikeda?
I just shook my head. Hijikata-san thought for a moment and then spoke.
Sano, Harada, you take your men to Ikeda. You take our men to Ikeda. I need to go deal with something.
Harada-san and Saito-san nodded curtly, then turned to their business.
Kill, it will be dangerous for you alone. You can either stay with us or go with Hijikata-san.
I still lacked the breath to respond properly, so I simply nodded. We both knew they couldn't
Head to the Ikeda Inn.
We both knew they couldn't leave me here. I didn't know how to get back to the compound, but who should I go with? And of course it is Ikeda.
Because, well, this goes for 2 of the routes. Or no, 3 of the routes. No, 4. Wait, 5!
What?
Because the other 5 bachelors are either heading toward or at Ikeda Inn right now.
You are correct, and I didn't notice that before. Holy shit. Yes, head to Ikeda Inn.
Alright.
Alright, hold on. Okay. As fast as we could manage, we ran through the night, through the silent streets of Kyo, towards the Ikeda Inn. We were nearly a block away when we heard the first cries of men engaged in battle. None of the Shinsengumi had remained outside the building, but I heard a voice ring out from inside that sounded much like Kondo-san's. Except in the remake, where there's a Takeda outside being absolutely useless.
I shall take the front. Guess I'll take the back then.
They each gave each other a curt nod, then turned to lead their men. I couldn't stand there by myself. I decided to follow Harada. I turned and ran after Harada towards the back of the inn. I'm coming with you! I yelled as loud as I could, hoping he'd hear me above the sound of fighting coming from inside the inn.
You are, huh? Well, I guess I can't just leave you behind now, can I?
He flashed me a quick grin. Even with everything that was going on, he still acted like he had everything under control.
I'll keep an eye on you, so you make sure you stick close, alright?
Okay.
As he nodded to me, we rounded the corner and found ourselves at the rear entrance to the Ikeda Inn. The first thing I saw was a blue jacket, drenched in blood. My hand flew to my mouth almost involuntarily. 3 of the Shinsengumi soldiers lay on the ground. I saw no signs of any other Ronin nearby. Harada-san walked quickly to each man, checking this for signs of life and for whatever wounds they sustained.
Ando and Nita, huh? Stay strong, guys. You're gonna be okay.
They nodded weakly at Harada-san, their breaths shallow and harsh. He turned to the men he had brought with him and directed some of them to carry the 2 wounded soldiers away from the Ronin. You had plenty of room for this sentence.
No, I didn't.
The 3rd man, however, even my untrained eye could see that his face was frozen in the grim, waxy mask of death. Slowly, Harada-san knelt down beside him.
You did good, Okusawa. You died a great man.
His tone was kind, compassionate, and as he touched the man softly on the head, husky with emotion. Husky with emotion? Should be husked? Or husky? Is husky correct? This is a weird word combination.
The meaning of husky is hoarse with or as with emotion. As if with emotion.
Huh. Yet all in my head I can think of is the goddamn dog.
Bork.
Bork.
Harada-san.
I felt my heart tighten. You might not think it to look at him, but Harada-san cared for people. He was nice. He's the nicest captain, yet has a very bad temper. He'd undoubtedly been in many battles, and this was surely far from the first death he'd seen. Death was likely as common as breathing to him, but was he hurt this much by everyone?
They must have jumped from the second floor and attacked our men.
He looked up at the inn, and his eyes narrowed. You could still hear the sounds of battle coming from inside.
Are they going to be okay?
Harada-san's response was exactly what I would have expected from him.
Of course. They're a bunch of tough guys. Alright. Our job is to cut down anyone who tries to run away out the back door. Alright?
Okay.
Something about his words calmed me, at least a little. After all, they were tough. They'd be fine. The 10th Division is here to clean up the mess.
Yes.
I stood up a little straighter next to Harada-san and waited. And then the sun came up.
And I can hear it appears that the capital was spared the chaos.
The raid itself had lasted only 2 hours, but for me at least, it felt far longer. There had been 20 Imperial Nationalists at the Ikeda Inn. The Shinsengumi had killed 7 Ronin and injured 4 more. I later learned that with the help of the Aizo Domain and the Kyo Judiciary Commissioner, they had arrested 23 people. The owner of the Ikeda Inn had also been arrested for trying to help the Choshu rebels escape. The Shinsengumi had won an incredible victory, fighting against superior numbers in enemy territory, but they had paid dearly for it. Okita-san had taken a blow to the chest and lost consciousness. Heisuke-kun had been cut on the forehead and the bleeding refused to stop. Nagakura-san had injured his left hand. One of the Shinsengumi soldiers had lost his life at the inn's rear entrance, and 2 others had been severely injured there as well. It didn't seem likely that they would survive. The Kyo military and judiciary commissioners, run by the Aizo and Kuwana domains respectively, had also fought Choshu Ronin. With a successful resolution of the Battle of Ikeda-en, the Shinsengumi had at last made a name for themselves. It looked as though the peace in Kyo had been protected. Neither could I have imagined what the ultimate result of their victory at the Ikeda-en would be. August!
August.
Oh, we're going immediately. Almost immediately. Oh, I need water. Ah. Nom nom nom.
Nom nom nom.
Nom nom water. After the fight at the inn, I was able to leave the compound much more often. I suppose after what I'd done, Hijikata-san thought I'd earn a little more trust. I didn't feel like I'd done anything that extraordinary, but I wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth. On this particular day, I was on a patrol with Harada-san and the 10th Division.
Excuse me, Harada-san. The Shinsengumi is out patrolling day and night, right? But what exactly is it that you do?
Most of the men in the Shinsengumi were intimidating, death-dealing titans. But Harada-san was a rare exception, warm and friendly.
Until you piss them off.
Until you piss him off.
Well, I guess we do just about everything. Obviously, we arrest people who decide that they want to test out their swords on the townsfolk. And we go after people who steal or don't pay for their food. Sometimes we break out fights.
People who don't pay for their food?
And then there's those chumps who think they'll make a living leaning on merchants. We take care of all of that.
It wasn't really the answer I'd expected. Most of the stuff they did wasn't nearly as dramatic as I thought. As I thought back, I remember how excited they'd all been when they were preparing for the raid on the Ikeda Inn. And now I understand why. What they'd done at the end was a good deal more intense than their day-to-day work. A little further down the road, a couple men in Shinsengumi blues were waving at us. I wonder who headed up patrols alongside with.
Hey!
Nagakura-san!
Our separate rounds had brought us to the same spot.
Hey there, Chizuru-chan. You find anything out about your dad?
I just come to a realization.
Huh?
Who the fuck does Saito do rounds with?
Okita?
No, that's Hesuke. In the remakes, we know that Hijikata does rounds with Takeda because nobody fucking else would. It's true! Nobody else would! I know for story purposes they made it Takeda because Iba. But like, come on. Maybe it's again.
Maybe.
Maybe. Who else is there? This Tani, which we don't really see. There's Miki? Later? Maybe. I'll find out.
Yeah.
I shook my head.
No, nothing today.
Aw. Come on, cheer up. There's always tomorrow, right?
You're right.
There was something contagious about his optimism.
Well, Senpachi? What, you find anything exciting? No, nothing particular. But, well, all the people on the street are acting busy, you know?
I hadn't noticed it before, but he was right. They were acting strange, almost nervous.
It looks like they're getting ready to move.
Harada-san nodded. Also, I just realized something from earlier. From since Hijikata won overall for Chizuru during the Sims stream earlier today.
Yeah?
Kauda.
Oh.
That's gonna be fun.
Alright. You think maybe they're worried about getting caught up in the middle of a war?
What?
War? There wasn't a war, was there?
Oh, did you hear? Well, those Choshi bastards are showing up around Kyo again. That's why we got extra watches these days. Well, we did give them a bit of a bloody nose at Ikeda. I can't imagine they'll just stand around with some of their guys in the ground.
Were the Choshu going to try something again? The Shinsengumi were doing their best to keep order in Kyo. In fact, they'd saved the city from the rebellious plans of the Choshu once before, with their victory at Ikeda Inn. But even after all they'd done, the people of Kyo looked at the Shinsengumi with fear and disgust, and plenty of them still sided with the Choshu. The Shinsengumi were better regarded now than they had been before Ikeda, but even so... I told Nagakura-san as much, but he only laughed. What the fuck? I heard Discord message.
Wasn't me.
Alright. Not much... Oh, never mind. I did it this time. Ha!
What?
Go ahead.
Hang on. Getting rid of a tab. Alright. Not much we could do about that. Kyo hates the Shogun. It doesn't matter anyway. We just do our job. Choshu attack Kyo, we drive him back. Simple.
They accepted their situation and never complained. I had a good deal of respect for Harada-san and Nagakura-san.
They don't back off soon, then We're probably going to be getting orders all the way up from the top.
For the Shinsengumi, the top meant the Aizu domain.
It's that serious, huh?
Harada-san gave a bark of laughter and nodded.
Well, chances like this only come around every so often. Who knows when the next one will be? You want to join us?
What? Join? Did he mean for me to join the Shinsengumi and march to war with them? I couldn't imagine joining them would be as simple as saying, yes, please.
I think it's more like, oh yes, please.
Besides, it seems rather inappropriate for me to ask to participate just so that I may satisfy my curiosity. Still, I did want very much to be helpful in some way. Could I perhaps do something like what I'd done at Decadain? Even if I could, though, I was terribly frightened of being anywhere near a battle. On the other hand, the men who'd been injured at Decadain were still out of commission. I
wanted to come.
Let's go! My mind was made up. I looked at Harada and nodded.
I want to help.
Several days. Oh.
7 days later.
My brain had remembered something. Hold up.
What?
Where is my little book? I was writing down things for Haruka. I forgot about that.
Oh.
Oh. Give me a second. Oh, please print. Thank you. Alright, several days later.
Excuse me.
Carefully, I lifted a serving platter with its tea for the captains and made my way to the common room. It had taken me longer than it should have to make the tea, so I was a little worried some of it had gotten cold.
Ah, thanks, Chizuru. Thanks, Chizuru-chan. Man, it's almost like you're a servant or something.
I wasn't entirely sure how to respond to that, so I stayed silent as I handed out the tea.
Domo, Yukimura-kun. I feel bad asking you to do this.
Oh, it's nothing. After all, you're always looking out for me.
And besides, I felt much better when I had something to do. It kept me from feeling too much like a freeloader. Okita-san took a sip of his tea and a mild grimace flickered across his face.
Is it too bitter?
He shook his head.
No. The taste is fine, but it can stand to be hotter. Then again, I suppose this sort of tea fits you.
What does that mean?
What did you like to know?
Sorry.
Take a drink.
Remember, chat, whenever Chizuru says sorry or thank you, take a drink of something not alcoholic. Or else you'll die. Especially in these early parts.
Oh my god, yes.
She says it so often.
I know.
There was a second or two of silence before the door flew open and Kondo-san strode in, a stern look upon his face.
The Shinsengumi has received an official request from the Aizu domain. All available soldiers are to begin preparations to move out immediately.
The room broke out into cheers.
it seems that the Aizu has finally noticed all the hard work we've been doing, man.
Thank God this doesn't have the sound effect. Because this is where that one sound effect pops up in the remake where it's just loud as hell. You look just as happy with the news as the rest of them. Apparently getting orders directly from the Aizu domain was an occasion for some excitement. Ichikatsu-san, however, was the lone exception.
We don't have time for this shit. Stop patting each other on the back and get moving. We need to go. Now!
He went on to explain that the soldiers of the Choshu had already spent some time preparing for their own attack.
So they realize there might be a problem when the Choshu are ready to attack Kyo? This is bullshit.
Ichikata-san certainly seemed unhappy about the direction things had gone, and I could understand, at least to some extent, how he felt. If the Aizu had asked for help earlier, then the Shinsengumi would have had much more time to prepare.
Okita and Todo, you will remain here at the compound. I doubt you will find this a welcome order, but neither do I.
He rubbed his left arm absently and looked away. Sanan!
Your injuries keep you from active duty, as does mine.
I didn't think there was any chance that hadn't made Heisuke-kun and Okita-san feel at least a little guilty, but...
Hey, I'm completely healed. I might not be 100% yet, but I'm not bleeding or anything. Take a look.
He acted almost as if he hadn't heard Sanan-san at all.
This calls for it.
Fuck you, Okita.
Yep.
You're making such a big wuss out of nothing. This is just a scratch. Kodo-san's being a wuss.
Perhaps they were so used to Sanan-san feeling sorry for himself that they had simply ignored his comment. Maybe. Perhaps it was time I learned to do the same.
You sure about that? Last night, the pain you had, like... What?
The pain had
I
you.
ended up dropping something. Hang
Oh,
on.
what the
I'm
fuck?
trying to get... Alright, you sure about that? Last night, the pain you had crying like a baby before you took your medicine. You son of a bitch! Why you gotta rat me out? Is there even a heart in there, you old bastard?
I still don't know which one I like more. This? Or Haruka's just poking his forehead and just revealing everything.
Why you gotta do that?
It seems Heisuke-kun's injury hadn't healed quite as much as he'd claimed.
What?
It-
That would be much more evident with Haruka pointing at his forehead.
She pokes it, like she
Pokes it.
just lightly pokes it. It's like, ow!
Maybe, maybe not, but you know I'm telling the truth. Yeah, well, you don't have to say in front of a girl, you know.
Oh, Heisuke. He glanced sideways at me.
I feel like he would also just like try to say that as low as he could while with Haruda still hearing him. You didn't have to do that in front of a girl, you know.
Yeah, that would be accurate.
Oh, don't worry about me. Everybody gets hurt.
His bangs hid the scar rather well, but it still looked painful. There was a moment of silence, and then Nagakura-san spoke.
Oh yeah, Chizuru-chan, you said you wanted to go with us if we got called in, right? You still up for that?
Yes, I had said that, hadn't I?
Well,
I knew it couldn't be so simple as to just... What? I knew it couldn't be so simple as just asking to go. There we go.
Ah, yes, well, I see no reason why not. After all, it isn't often that one is given such an opportunity.
I hadn't expected Kondo-san to agree so easily.
Whoa! Well, you sure got lucky, Chizuru.
Just Chizuru.
Yeah. Make sure you do us proud, alright?
Do us proud?
Hijikata-san glanced at me inside.
We can't promise you won't get hurt or worse. You should stay here. Do you wish to place undue burden on the Shinsengumi? War is not something one does to ease one's boredom.
His cold smile was anything but comforting.
Colonel Sana, can I take that as the means that so long as she is not a burden, she is free to accompany us?
I blinked. Saito-san, standing up for me.
Yes.
Sana-san seemed nearly as surprised as I was. Saito found the loophole.
Ha! You can't be saying that you're actually in favor of bringing her along?
Saito-san simply shrugged.
She was an asset at Ikeda. I only intend to point out that, judging by her actions, she has hardly proven a burden thus far.
I could feel heat rising in my cheeks.
Huh?
Never in a million years would I have imagined that Saito-san might have a word of praise for me.
Excellent! Oh, I will take full responsibility for your inclusion. That is, of course, if you're still willing to participate.
Sana-san still didn't seem convinced. I looked around the room until my eyes met Okita-san's.
Do whatever you want to do, so long as you understand that we're going to a battle, not a party.
It looked like I wasn't about to get any help from Okita-san. In fact, he didn't seem to care one way or the other. Well, perhaps I'd be able to help them out, like I had during the Battle of Ikeda Inn. I nodded.
Yes, I would like to participate.
Wish! After that, everything was a blur. As quickly as we could, we prepared for battle and marched to the Fushimi Magistrate's office.
This'll be important later.
There were a number of the Kyo Judiciary Commissioner's men gathered there as well, in preparation for battle with the Choshu. Walking proudly in front of the men, Kondo-san approached the government official standing near the gate.
We, the Shinsengumi, are reporting as requested by Lord Katamori Matsudaria. Lieutenant General Matsudaria, Lieutenant General of the Aizu.
Katamori Matsudaria was the lord of the Aizu domain and also the Kyo military commissioner, which made him a very important person. His name would have been immediately recognized. The man standing near the gate looked slightly taken aback at the mention of the Shinsengumi.
You were told to report here? But we've received no such orders.
What?
And it starts.
No, that didn't make any sense. Perhaps sensing my confusion, Saito-san leaned over and whispered under his breath.
If they haven't received notice of our orders, then the lines of communication are likely in disarray. We can assume, therefore, that this conflict has become rather chaotic.
Who the fuck is sending messages?
Is it blue? I'll bet it's blue.
Oh, it's Tora.
Oh!
Tora's playing Reload.
Oh!
E.
Chaotic.
Oh.
I did my best to keep my own voice at a whisper.
Do you mean the Choshu is overpowering the Shogunate's forces?
Not necessarily. However, I do suspect that the enemy is doing well.
The Judiciary Commissioner supposedly answered to the Military Commissioner, but the Military Commissioner's office was controlled by the Aizu domain, and the Kuwana domain controlled the Judiciary Commissioner's office. That's a mouthful. I didn't fully understand the relationships between the different domains, but as far as I knew, the Aizu and Kuwana had never been on very good terms with one another. In other words, the situation we had found ourselves in was less than desirable.
Nonetheless, our assistance has been formally requested. If you could only speak to your supervisor, it wouldn't make a difference. Now get out of here. We've no use for Mibu's wolves.
What? How terrible. And after they asked for the Shinsengumi's help. I felt Harada-san's hand on my shoulder and turned to look up at him.
Forget about them. This isn't anything to get worked up about. We get this sort of crap all the time.
But I wasn't truly a member of the Shinsengumi. But even so, it was galling.
If we throw fits here, then we might hurt the Aizu's reputation. You get it?
Oh. The Kuwana would only need to complain that the Shinsengumi had shown them proper respect to make trouble for the Aizu.
If there's nothing we can do here, Chief, then we should leave the magistrate alone and meet up with the Aizu's men of our own. On our own.
Eh? Kono-san not in agreement, but his frown didn't fade.
Yes, I agree. That is our only choice. We must look for an officer of the military commissioner.
And with that, the Shinsengumi set off to find the soldiers of the Aizu domain. Night had fallen by the time we arrived at Kujo Beach. After we left the Fushimi magistrate's office, we made for the Aizu Manor, which, once we arrived, we related our encounter at the magistrate's office and asked for new orders. The manor official we met was directed us to go to Kujo Beach, which we did. However...
What? The Shinsengumi is to join us? We've received no such order. I apologize, but could you go speak to the commander at the manor?
Nagakura-san had, apparently, had enough.
What the hell? He was the one who said to come down here, god damn it! You wanna fuck us? Fine. But if you're gonna be disobeying a direct order from your superior, pal, you really wanna do that?
The man opened and closed his mouth a few times, then fell silent. Kono-san did his best to keep his voice neutral, but there was no hiding the grin that had spread across most of his face. He can't say something, but like a captain can, I guess.
I would like to speak to your commanding officer, if I might. Do you think you might be able to take me to him? I'm gonna get fired over this.
At last, after a great deal of trouble, we were allowed to remain with the troops at Kujo Beach. The chief and the captains left the rest of us to go speak to the Aizu commanders. They returned sometime later looking tired and drained. Inoue-san, who had gone with them, also wore a bitter sort of half-smile.
Well, it would seem that the men stationed here are in reserves and not the main force of their army. Their main force has been committed to the defense of Hamaguri Gate.
I felt my eyes go wide.
You mean they're treating the Shinsengumi like reserves?
If the reserves weren't called into battle, then the Shinsengumi would never be given a chance to show their worth.
Then why the hell they send us a message acting like this was some sort of emergency? We can't predict what might happen. We may be called upon to rush into battle. There's little else we can do for now.
Then all we can do is wait.
There was a chance we'd be called into action during the night, and so the men chose to stay awake, ready to move.
Just let us know if you need to rest a bit, Chizuru. You are always welcome to sleep on my lap.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Harada-san laughed as I shook my head. It wouldn't be fair if I was the only one who slept. The men had to remain awake and be ready to act all night. At first, I was far too anxious, but by dawn I was sound asleep. All around me, however, the men had kept a constant vigil all through the night. Even as I drifted in and out of sleep, I'd seen them standing or sitting nearby, alert and watchful. The sun had risen, and I finally had woken up when it happened.
What?
The crack of a shotgun tore through the morning air, and in the distance...
Pretty sure that's gunshot, not shotgun.
Oops, gunshot. It's not even a gunshot, actually. Wait, is it gunshot?
Yeah.
No. I mean, yes, I read that, but I mean, in the remix, was it a gunshot or was it a cannon? I can't remember.
Yes.
The crack of a gunshot tore through the morning air, and in the distance, I heard the shouting of men and the clang of metal. The fighting had begun. The captains looked at one another and nodded.
Time we left.
I stared at him for a moment, perhaps not fully awake yet, until I understood what he was saying.
Right.
With a quick nod, I stood up and made ready to move when...
Stop! What do you think you're doing? We were ordered to stay here!
Uh-oh. During our lengthy march the day before, I'd never seen Hijikata-san mad. He'd left the yelling to Nagakura-san mostly, and stayed patient when it was time to speak with the army officials. But this time... perhaps he had finally had enough.
I'm sorry, but I thought your job was to protect the Imperial estate. I guess you'd just rather sit around all day. We're here because we're supposed to help if those Chosu assholes attack! Now tell me, what are the Chosu doing right now? But we haven't received any orders!
Hijikata-san was in no mood for excuses.
If you got any kind of pride in your job, then forget your goddamn orders and move!
Damn. Without even waiting for a response, Hijikata-san spun around and stalked off fuming.
Racka, fracka, racka, racka, fracka, racka.
There's our demon vice commander. Why did I say it that way? I need water.
Of course you do.
Demon vice commander has woken up.
Where are we going?
To engage Choshu.
I didn't dare raise my voice above a whisper. Saito-san's eyes flickered down to me for a moment, and his mouth thinned almost
Perceptibly.
Imperceptibly.
To the enemy, which means, in this case, Hamaguri Gate.
Hamaguri Gate.
The battle at the gate is likely to be an intense one. You had best prepare yourself.
Alright.
Hijikata-san's fury seemed to have aroused the Aizu soldiers as well, and then followed the Shinsengumi to the Hamaguri Gate. Before long, we'd arrived.
What?
I'd expected a pitched battle with hundreds of men locked in combat with one another, but what we found was something else entirely. The gate itself was pockmarked with scores of bullets, and everywhere dead and dying soldiers littered the ground. The acrid stink of firearm hung in the air. What I didn't see, however, was the enemy. It seemed that we had arrived too late. The battle was already over. After a moment of stunned silence, several of our men were dispatched to determine what had happened. Kondo-san sighed.
What are the Choshu thinking? They've raided the Imperial estate. How can they claim to be an imperialist domain?
Kondo-san simply nodded.
Hmm.
Choshu had defined themselves as among those who revered the Emperor, and yet they would attack his home? Yeah, I don't know why. That didn't make sense to me either. I was wondering what motive they might have had when Saito-san returned.
It appears that the Choshu attacked Hamaguri early in the morning, but were repelled by the combined forces of Aizu and Satsuma.
The forces standing against them had been too much for the Choshu, and they'd been forced into retreat. I saw the corner of Hijikata-san's mouth curled up into a grin.
So, Satsuma is helping Aizu now, are they? Times sure are changing.
Right. The Satsuma and Aizu demands hadn't been on the best of terms. In fact, the Satsuma were largely nationalistic, much like the Choshu. Unlike the Choshu, however, they'd gone to war with a foreign force at one point and suffered a devastating loss. Father had told me that after that, Satsuma had begun to reconsider their nationalistic stance.
There's still some of those Choshu bastards fighting over at Kuge Gate.
Hijikata-san's expression changed as he considered Harada's words. But before he could open his mouth to speak, Yamazaki-san appeared.
Commander, we believe that the men who led this raid are headed for Mount Tenno.
Although Kondo-san was normally the head of the Shinsengumi, I learned from the men that everyone, including Kondo-san himself, generally deferred to Hijikata-san on most decisions. This was no exception, and I could see that all eyes were on him. He was silent for a few moments, and then I saw his mouth curve into a small smile.
Well, looks like we got our work cut out for us, boys.
A ripple of dry laughter ran through the men, and I could feel their excitement in the air.
Sanosuke, take your men to Kuge Gate and deal with those Choshu bastards. Sure thing, boss. Saito, Yamazaki, I want you to figure out the situation is here. I want you to hold Hamaguri Gate. As you wish. Your job is a tough one, Chief. I want you to go talk to the Aizu bigwigs.
Kondo-san tilted his head to the side quizzically.
Some of those bastards are headed for Tenno, but there was a burp right there. But some of them are just gonna run around and cause trouble. And if we're gonna go after them, then we'll need to leave Kyo. And you're the only one who can get us those papers.
Of course.
Oh!
The Choshu were on the run now, but they could still do some damage as they fled. Pursuing them would take us outside of Kyo, but the Shinsengumi's jurisdiction didn't extend that far. If we wanted to go after them, we need to get permission from the military commissioner, and that meant the Aizu.
So who wants to forge some documents? I see. If the chief of the Shinsengumi goes to speak with them, then the military commissioner's office will have to listen to what we have to say.
After what we'd gone through the day before, I didn't imagine Kondo-san's task would be an easy one. Still, if anyone other than Kondo-san went, not only would the Aizu be unlikely to grant their request, there was a good chance the Shinsengumi representative wouldn't even have been heard.
Gen, I want you to go with him. Someone has to keep an eye on our chief. Make sure he doesn't go crazy, alright? Of course. I'll do my best, Commander.
Another laugh ran through the soldiers, and Kondo-san's mouth twisted into a wry sort of grin. Perhaps he chose not to deny it because he knew he might go a little crazy.
The rest of you are coming with me to Tenno. As for you...
He looked directly at me. I wasn't a warrior, and I didn't have any political skill or connections either. Hijikata-san didn't know what to do with me. Suddenly, I felt very much like dead weight.
You can't go with Kondo-san, but other than that, it's up to you.
Oh, alright.
I'm going with the pretty redhead.
It hadn't occurred to me until that moment, but he was right. Kondo-san was going to meet with the leaders of the Aizu. If I went with him without wearing the Shinsengumi blues, then I'd be a difficult thing to explain. Hijikata-san would be pursuing the leaders of the Choshu attack towards Tenno Mountain. Saito-san would be staying at Hamaguri Gate to protect it and to gather information. Harada-san and his men would be going to Kuge Gate to stop the attack on the Imperial Estate. The question was, where would I go?
To the gate!
Which one?
The gate that we're supposed to go to. It's Kuge, okay?
Kuge Gate. We're going to Kuge Gate, alright? Jesus Christ. I decided to accompany Harada-san to the Kuge Gate. When we arrived, it was immediately clear that the fight had not been so decisive as the one at Hamaguri. Judiciary Commissioner's men, who had moved to Kuge Gate from Hamaguri, were still engaged with a number of Choshu soldiers who had refused to yield.
You should probably stay here, Chizuru. It's going to be pretty dangerous out there.
Before I could even respond, he was off, the rest of the Shinsengumi thundering into the battle behind him.
If you want to get to the Imperial Estate, you're gonna have to get through me. You're gonna have to get through me. Stop it! You're gonna have to get through us first.
There we go. Even in the middle of battle, the little twist of a grin at the corner of Harada-san's mouth never wavered. Look at this man!
I know.
He's prepared.
Damn it! Is that the Shinsengumi? Damn right it is. If any of you are looking for a quick, glorious death, then come at me! Bastard!
War cries rose upon from both sides, and battle was joined. This is a weird sentence in my brain. This time, however, the force defending the Imperial Estate had the Shinsengumi on their side. The battle did not last long.
Is that the best we can do? Is this the best we can do?
A great moan of pain went up from the soldiers of the Choshu.
Don't let them escape! After them!
The officers of the Judiciary Commissioner shouted to their men, who slowly began to advance. They had scarcely begun to move, however, when the man covering the Choshu escape turned and faced them.
I hope you feel honored, boys. Looks like I'm gonna be playing with you for a little bit.
There was a flash of silver and a sound like the crack of thunder filled the air.
What was that?
The officer who'd just given the order to pursue let out an agonizing scream and collapsed to the ground. Oh shit. Discord.
Discord did not like that, but still.
He lay there, quite still, and a pool of blood slowly began to form beneath him. Would you like to know what Shiranui does in this for both Harada and Takeda?
Well, he doesn't shoot them.
Well,
What is it?
shoots Haruka in the arm.
Why?
Distraction?
Well then. Oh, I know who you are.
Yeah,
Well,
he
if that's the case.
Yeah, he knew exactly who she was. So he knows this isn't gonna hurt much. But hitting your friends, on the other hand, I don't want to piss off the Ice Princess. That was when I realized what the flash of silver had been. The weapon called the pistol. I'd never seen one before, but I heard of them. They were cylinders of metal that used explosive power to fire small metal balls. Pistols were small, one-handed versions of this type of weapon, which was known as a gun. As we stood there, I realized that it likely had been this very gun that had scarred Hamaguri Gate.
What's that? What's that? Did the sound of my pistol scare ya?
He looked pointedly at the remaining officials, his mouth drawn open in a toothy grin. I didn't think that it was his pistol that kept them at a distance, however. It was the man himself. He was clearly outnumbered, but looked no more concerned than if he were facing no enemies at all. It was clear to everyone present that he was no normal man.
Well, it sure is nice of you to play with us, but don't you think it's a little unfair if you're the only one with a gun?
Hanada-san? Hanada-san moved a few steps closer to the stranger.
Ha! Really? Nah, seems fair to me. Besides, you got that big old pig sticker yourself.
Both men grin. What the fuck?
It's a scene from Helsing Abridged.
Oh. Both men grinned a challenge to one another.
Yeah.
Almost too fast to see, the point of Harada-san's spear swept through the air towards the stranger. Who leaned out of the way at the last moment.
What? You seem to be spoiling for a fight. Seriously though, who charges a man holding a gun? Using a toy to try and keep others at a distance is pathetic for a warrior and for a man. Wouldn't you agree?
The stranger grinned.
Huh. They call me Shiranui Kyo. Or Shiranui-san to you. You may introduce yourself as well.
This topic came up the other day, but still, I so wish they kept san and all of those honorifics and sensei and everything. It makes it so much better. Anyway.
Then you could call me Harada Sanosuke, captain of the Shinsengumi's 10th Division.
They seemed to see one another not so much as enemies, but more as opponents. The air between them was tense, but I felt no evil intent from either of them.
They're spoiling for a good fight, and they got it.
But what should I do?
Cheer for Harada?
Wrong!
Wait, get rid of Shiranui?
Get rid of Shiranui!
Chizuru, what are you...
If I was honest with myself, I was terrified. The strange man was very dangerous, but Harada-san had seen something in him, so perhaps he would hear me out. I didn't let Harada-san finish.
Shiranui-san, right? Could you leave now?
Huh? What the hell, kid? If you're trying to screw with me, then I'll end you right here.
I felt a cold bead of sweat roll down my spine. This, I thought, must be how a frog feels when it catches the eye of a snake. but I'd opened my mouth. There was no going back now.
Well, all of the Shoshu's soldiers have run away.
Although he hadn't said anything, he had clearly been serving as a sort of rear guard for the Choshu during their retreat. Now that they were gone...
If they're gone, do you still have a reason to fight?
His eyebrows went up, and he looked at me more closely, with surprise and something else.
Our job is to protect the Imperial estate. If you still insist on drawing your gun,
He let out an exasperated sigh and put his gun back in his holster.
You know, you got balls, kid, I'll give you that. I've been feeling good about meeting new people today. Don't let this go to your head, though. Next time I won't go easy on you or on Hanada-san here.
I do not remember what happens in this scene in Shiranui's route. As casually as he could, Hanada-san had moved to place himself in between me and Shiranui.
Fine by me. I've already got plenty of friends, but I could use a good enemy. Let's save the fun for later, shall we? Maybe this time, but I'm not the kind of guy who likes to enjoy the anticipation, if you know what I mean.
And with a raucous laugh, he was gone. Hanada-san headed off in the direction Shiranui-san had gone for a few hundred feet, then returned once he was sure the man had actually left. I'd finally allowed myself to begin to relax when Hanada-san gave me a short tap on the head.
Be more careful.
I can feel the tap, like tap.
Okay.
He hadn't said much, but even those few words had been enough to let me know that he'd been worried about me.
Thank you. Sorry for,
Is that a double drink?
Yeah!
Holy shit, alright. Well, I drank till I had no water.
So, are we gonna BRB so you can get more?
Yeah, just a quick BRB. It'll be, it lives up here today. Alright, BRB.
Yep. Am I first? Yeah, I'm first. Alright.
Bop.
Hello?
Bop.
Oh,
Hi.
okay.
Why?
I just barely heard like ha.
You heard a hop.
Yeah.
That was weird. I was loud enough for the mini to pick me up.
Huh.
I guess not for Discord.
Well then.
I don't know. San looked at me for a moment before he spoke.
No, I think he did the right thing. After all, none of our guys got hurt, right? Besides, the commander's orders were to fight off the Choshu if they showed up. It's not our job to track them down.
Right.
He looked sad.
If they run now, they'll only feel worse.
What?
But even as I asked, I realized what he meant. The men who'd fled had come all the way from Choshu just for this battle. Now they'd lost. How could they return home in disgrace? Their choice to turn and run meant they had nowhere to return to now.
I've got a feeling we haven't seen the last of that Shiranui guy.
I didn't say it, but I felt the same.
I hope we don't.
Harada-san was one of the captains of the Shinsengumi. So long as Shiranui-san was allied with the Choshu, there was no doubt that they would only meet as enemies. Bleh.
Oh. He did manage to dodge my spear. I guess he'll be a challenging opponent. Still, it's my job to fight the enemies. That's what I'll do.
Harada-san.
There was no mistaking the resolve in his voice. I was sure that the man called Shiranui-san would no doubt prove a dangerous foe, but there was something in the smile Harada-san gave me that made me feel at ease. With the battle at Kuge Gate finally at an end, the men who remained began to clean up. I helped as best I could, moving rubble and tending to the wounded, glad that the battle was finally over. The Choshu extremists' attempted attack on the imperial estate eventually began to be known as the Hamaguri Rebellion. Although the Shinsengumi were called to action, their efforts were stymied, and they found little in the way of glory. Communication with their superiors had been poor at best, and they spent much of the battle waiting with the reserves. When the Shinsengumi did finally enter the battle, they found several strange opponents awaiting them. Chikage Kazuma, the man who had defeated Okita-san at Ikeda, claimed to be from the Satsuma domain during his encounter with Hichikata-san. Kyuji Amagiri, the man who had shattered Heisuke-kun's head guard at Ikeda, also claimed membership in the Satsuma. They had also met Kyo Shiranui, who had fought alongside men from Choshu. Whoever they were, it was clear that they were not allies of the Shinsengumi. Indeed, it seemed they could easily become some of its greatest enemies. If they were to meet in open battle, the casualties would be severe. By the time the battle was over, the commanders of the Choshu attack had been killed in the fighting or taken their own lives. There were some soldiers, however, who escaped, setting Kyo ablaze as they fled. By some terrible misfortune, the wind that day blew from the north and fanned the flames, reducing the southern end of the imperial estate to ash. As a result of the Choshu attack, many imperial nationalists were executed. After everything had been sorted out, the Shinsengumi were at last given permission to patrol outside of Kyo from Osaka to Hyogo. No sooner had they been given permission than they set to work, rounding up unruly ronin and defending the public good. With the Hamaguri rebellion over, the Choshu were branded as traitors for attacking the estate. From then on, they were acknowledged enemies of the court. Oh boy.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. We went from August to February. Num num. Seems like a good time to save.
It does.
Ugh. Do we keep going?
I'm up for it. It's only been an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, hold on. Behave yourself, walkthrough. After breakfast one day, I found myself on my way to the common room with a tray bearing tea.
Tea's ready.
I made my way around the room, pouring a cup of tea for each person there, making sure not to spill any. It was a routine I began to feel accustomed to.
Oh, thank you, Yukimura.
He gave me a warm smile as I handed him his tea.
There's nothing quite so delicious as hot tea on a cold day.
Thank you.
Take a drink.
Take a drink. Remind me to go get a
Counter?
No, a thing of tea. A cup
Oh.
of tea, cold tea.
Yeah.
I have one of those big bottles of unsweetened oolong tea.
Oh.
So I'm like, I'ma drink it. Sometimes I'll add sugar, but mostly I just drink it like that.
Mm.
I felt a flush of pride at his words, even though I knew quite well that serving tea was hardly anything impressive. Just the same, I felt as if I was helping out in a way, and that was a nice feeling. It had been a year since I'd first come to Kyo in search of my father. Living with the Shinsengumi wasn't easy, but they'd helped me look for him. Even after a year of searching, however, I hadn't found anything. Sometimes I felt like it was hopeless, like I'd never find him, and that I should just give up. But the men of the Shinsengumi never gave up. They were always there to cheer me on and keep me going. In a way, I suppose I'd grown to love living with them. And I'd even be able to repay them for some of their kindness by helping treat the wounded at the Battle of Ikeda Inn and during the Hamaguri Rebellion. Little by little, I started to feel like I was accepted, as if perhaps I was beginning to fit in. As strange as it might sound, I was beginning to feel as if I had found a place within the Shinsengumi. Then Hijikata-san spoke, and his words brought me back to the present.
The Yagi have been good to us so far, and my screen shrank! The Yagi have been good to us so far, but this place is getting crowded. True, but it is getting a little small, especially with all the new guys coming in.
You're going to be getting even more soon, right?
Eisuke-kun was currently in Edo, recruiting more men for the Shinsengumi's ranks.
Hey, it's also around this time that Haruka and Harada get married.
Yes. I don't remember exactly when they get married, but like, they should have.
Hesuke was away, so this is when he's away.
Yes, they should have gotten married already.
And they're already working on babies.
It was always good to have more soldiers, but they were beginning to run out of space at the compound. The rank-and-file soldiers were being packed into smaller and smaller rooms. Also, Hijikata would never admit that he's actually excited. I just needed to say that.
Well, of course.
He never admitted that he's excited that there's a baby. I mean, he's pissed about it. But also like, shit.
I want to be mad about this so much. But look at him, he's just so cute!
Oh god.
If we could move to a bigger place, that'd be great. The guys are starting to get a little grumpy about being packed together in these rooms every night.
I couldn't exactly offer to share it, but I was starting to feel guilty for having my own room having a room of my own.
Easy for us to say, but it's gonna be hard to find someone else willing to let us stay at their place. You have something else in mind?
Hijikata-san's smile was almost predatory. Why?
The Nishi Hongwanji Temple. Oh, they're not gonna like that very much. You thinking we're just gonna force our way in? Guess I wouldn't expect anything else from you, Hijikata-san.
I didn't leave the compound much, except to go on patrol with the men, so I still didn't know Kyo very well, and I had no idea what sort of place this Nishi Honwanji temple was.
That's pretty big, I'll give you that, but I really don't think the monks are going to take to a bunch of soldiers living in their temple. Still, the location's great. We'll finally be able to get out of the city into the city a lot quicker than from here in Mibu.
At the time, the Shinsengumi's headquarters was in the Mibu area, which was on the outskirts of Kyo. Harada-san was right in that the current location made it difficult for the Shinsengumi to reach some parts of Kyo quickly, which reduced their effectiveness.
Still, will they really not want us there?
Saito-san only shrugged.
The Nishi Hongwanji Temple has been cooperating with the Choshu. Some of their Ronin have stayed there as well.
Oh.
If they supported the Choshu, then that would make the Shinsengumi their enemy. Little wonder then that they would hardly welcome us with open arms. That meant a whole other level of difficulty. Asking for a place to stay was hard enough, but asking that from an enemy? I felt silent, and Saito-san continued as if I'd never spoken.
No doubt that they'll be less than receptive to our overtures. On the other hand, if we should move into the Nishihongwanji temple, then the Choshu will have one less place to hide their agents.
Oh. Of course! Not only was the location desirable, but taking the temple would make the enemy's movements more difficult. Whatever problems we had acquiring the temple would likely be worth it.
Don't you think it's somewhat uncouth to use force against men of the cloth?
Sanan has a point. There was no hiding his distaste for the idea. Hijikata-san's voice was level but firm as steel.
The Choshu have used the temple to hide their men, and they couldn't have done that without the help of the monks. I agree that the Choshu must be dealt with, but this seems...
His voice trailed off, although he was still clearly upset. There was little more he could say or do.
I agree with Toshi, but I have decided that San has a point as well.
He nodded solemnly, apparently deep in thought.
Impressive as always, Chief Kondo. Only a man with a truly open mind can be so considerate of both his enemies and his allies. Oh! Well, it's very kind of you to say, but I fear my behavior is simply imprudent, not open-minded.
He blushed and coughed in an attempt to nonchalance as Hijikata-san and Okita-san scowled in silence at the exchange.
They don't like this guy.
Nah, the majority of them don't. The man who had just spoke was Kashitaro Ito, the new deputy commander. He had joined the Shinsengumi only recently. Kondo-san had left Heisuke-kun in Edo and returned early with Ito-san and some of his men who had come to join the Shinsengumi. He was reputedly a master of the Hakushin Ito sword style and ran a school of his own. When Ito-san was introduced to the captains, none of them seemed particularly pleased with his addition to their ranks. No sooner had Ito-san and Kondo-san left the room than they began to talk amongst themselves.
I've heard that Ito-san is an imperial nationalist. Why would someone such as him want to join the Shinsengumi? He's like the Choshu then? Huh. You really think someone like that can get along with us?
Hijikata-san grunted and pursed his lips for a moment.
Kondo-san's a national loyalist. They may not agree on things such as the shogun and the emperor, but they're both nationalists though, through and through.
They might disagree about who should run the country, but neither of them wanted a foreign nation exerting its control over the country.
Besides, Kondo-san's a loyalist without a doubt, but he does have a few imperialist tendencies of his own.
Perhaps the different factions weren't quite so staunchly divided as they might appear. Would Kondo-san and the Shinsengumi work for the future? Would Kondo-san and the Shinsengumi work for a future where the shogun controlled their country, but the emperor was still treated with respect? That seemed like a solution that could make everyone happy. If that was the case, then Kondo-san's vision of national loyalism was a wonderful thing.
I figured the only one of us who'd be happy about Ito-san showing up would be Sana-san, right? True, they both practice Ito, right? He knows Ito too, huh? Doesn't he? He knows Ito too, doesn't he? And Sanan is a bit of a loyalist too. Sanan-san is a bit of a loyalist too.
I wouldn't have guessed that Sanan-san and Ito-san had so much in common. His expression didn't suggest that he was particularly happy, though.
Yes, I have met Ito-san. He is well educated and a skilled orator. With such a gifted deputy commander, I suppose that the Shinsengumi has little need for a colonel.
Sanan-san's words hung in the air, heavy and awkward. I didn't understand the ranks of the Shinsengumi, but as far as I could tell, a deputy commander outranked a colonel.
With Ito-san here, there's very little left for me to do.
I hadn't even thought of it that way. Sanan-san felt that Ito-san was a threat to his own position. An awkward silence fell across the room.
So? I don't like him.
Okita-san was the first to speak, because of course he is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's something about the way he looks at you. Exactly! I don't know how to put it, but he's sort of uppity, you know? Like he's looking down on you or something.
There was a good deal of nodding and agreeing among the three of them for a few moments while I sat and thought. Truth be told, I didn't feel particularly comfortable around Deputy Commander Ito-san either. It wasn't that he was a bad person per se, only that he was, how to say it, off-putting? Ito-san's thin smile had spread across his face when Sanan-san voiced his objection to Hijikata-san's plan, and now he turned and spoke.
You always think of all the possibilities, Sanan-san. I'm impressed, but I fear you may be overthinking this. It could be a problem, yes, but...
His tone was deferential, but it didn't quite match his words.
Don't you think that a slightly greater problem would be that your left arm is utterly useless?
He said fighting words! Whatever warmth had remained in the room was abruptly gone.
I feel like that would be like the sound effect for that.
Yes.
Of course, you needn't be useless when you can even if you can no longer serve as a soldier. I'm sure that your wit and foresight will continue to be a great asset to the Shinsengumi and myself.
He said fighting words.
Yeah, he did.
It was as if Ito-san had taken a knife and driven it straight into Sanan-san's heart. I saw his shoulders sag, almost as if he had been punched in the stomach, and all around the room, jaws were set and knuckles turned white.
Perhaps I didn't hear you right, Ito-san.
Ichikata-san's voice was cold and sharp, like the sound of a blade sliding across a whetstone.
Sanan-san's smart, like you said. But more than that, he's a swordsman of the Shinsengumi. He is not useless, and he is not replaceable.
Ichikata-san's last words erupted from his mouth in a snarl, and there was no mistaking their meaning.
But my arm is...
He couldn't even seem to bring himself to finish. No matter how much they might need a swordsman of his skill, Sanan-san could no longer wield a blade. They both knew his arm would never heal, and Ichikata-san's desperate defense of his friend had likely only made Sanan-san feel worse.
Oh dear, that was terribly rude of me. Truly, there could be no better news than hearing that your arm has healed.
Ito-san's smile fooled no one, and Sanan-san fell silent.
God damn it.
He only muttered it under his breath, But I was close enough to hear. Too late, Hijikata-san had realized his mistake. This was the first time I'd seen Hijikata-san so worked up. He might have been harsh, but he almost always projected an air of control. Perhaps Sanan-san's injury worried him enough to allow the mask to slip.
Ito-san.
Kondo-san was clearly choosing his words carefully in a very nearly desperate attempt to change the subject.
If you would care to, perhaps you might come and have a look at our training regimen.
Ito-san's eyes narrowed and his mouth curled in a small smile.
My, how thoughtful of you. Yes, of course. I would love to have a look. Ah, the training room. Air heavy with the sweat of men straining to better themselves. Truly a delight. The sweat of men? Yes, I suppose you do have a point. The training room has grown rather musty.
I didn't need to think about that. Ito-san could be a very peculiar person.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, we'll see that
Crown
later,
Prince
won't we?
Douchebaggery is another.
Eh?
I said Crown Prince of Douchebaggery is another.
That's true. And you know, it's not that far of a reach to see the how Ito and Miki could be brothers. It's not that far of a reach. Ito just has a different flair than Miki. The two men left the room, chatting together as if nothing was wrong, and all eyes turned toward Sanan-san.
Sanan-san? Wait. Yeah, Sanan-san? Don't listen to that asshole, okay? Who is this? It's oh no.
That's who I think it is.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sir, behave yourself. Okay. Now.
Sanan-san said nothing. He stood up silently and left the room.
Man, I feel bad for him. Even the men are avoiding him these days.
What? It was the first I'd heard of such a thing, but then again, I normally didn't see anyone but the captains. I had no idea.
Well, he's been kind of a jerk lately. I imagine that's why.
It wasn't hard for me to see why they would feel that way. Sanan-san had gotten even worse in the last several weeks.
He wasn't always like that, you know. Back in the day, he was always acting like he was looking out for everybody. Yeah, he was real nice, at least on the surface, but nothing left of that now.
Do you really mean that?
The way they spoke, it sounded as if any kindness Sanan-san had shown was always a facade.
The hell does Kondo-san see in that Ito-san guy?
Okuta-san and Hijikata-san had largely ignored Nagakura-san and Harada-san, but their faces were dark and stormy. It wasn't difficult to guess why.
How the hell would I know? Probably just pulled the wool over Kondo-san's eyes with some well-spoken bullshit. Then why don't you just go get rid of him, Hijikata-san? Tell him that the Shinsengumi doesn't need him!
Hijikata-san let out a frustrated sigh and pinched the bridge of his nose.
No way Kondo-san will go for that. He adores Ito-san. Besides, when he joined, he brought a bunch of men with him. Do you think they won't make a stink if we kick him out?
Hijikata-san was right. He didn't like it any more than Okuta-san did. but they were in a tight spot.
Well, damn! Aren't you supposed to be the demon commander of the Shinsengumi? The commander from hell? You're supposed to make the impossible happen! Fine, Soji. Then how about we make you the commander? Then you can kick Ito-san out and his guys, right? Hell no. That'd be way too much trouble.
He gave a grin as he laughed, but when he finished, he sighed and his face fell. It looked like everyone was unhappy with Ito-san, but none of them knew quite what to do with him.
Do you dislike Ito-san too? Oh. I saw the Saito-san at the end of it.
Do you dislike Ito-san too, Saito-san?
I noticed earlier that he kept quiet while the others commiserated, and I was curious what he thought. He looked at me for a moment, then spoke.
An organization grows. It will expand to include people who have differing ideas and viewpoints.
Then was he supporting Ito-san's appointment to deputy commander? I was about to ask when he continued speaking.
However, if one attempts to force this sort of diversity, then the organization will begin to rot from within.
His words hung in the air, a dark omen for the future of the Shinsengumi. It was considerate of Ito-san to join, but his presence seemed to be a recipe for dissension, if not outright disaster. I think this is a good place to stop.
Let's see, 2 hours almost.
Yeah. Save.
Alright.
Save. There we go.
Yeah.
Go to title screen.
Yeah. So, is there anything tomorrow afternoon? I forgot.
In the afternoon, no, unless I feel like just playing Persona 3 Reload, then I'll stream. Otherwise, we have Hakuoki Altar Art for the night stream.
Starting at 9 or 8 p.m.?
1 second, because I forget myself.
Ah.
It's at 9. 9 p.m. EST.
No, this is not what I wanted.
You okay?
I'm trying to look up the schedule, but
I got it.
I just... Oh.
9 p.m. EST.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when art begins.
Hang on. Let me just do this, and, here, we have a raid.
Wait, we have a raid?
We can raid.
Who raided?
He is friends of Katie.
Oh, you kinda.
Yeah.
Okay,
He'll never suspect it.
He'll never suspect a thing. Alright, let me set up the raid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna raid. You kinda. Oh, wait, hold on.
Bring up the soundboard because that's necessary for the outro.
We're gonna start the raid in 10 seconds.
Alright. 10 seconds?
Yeah.
So therefore, please drink water.
Have a good day or night.
Not to die because you didn't drink water. Let's go raided! Woo!